The Cursed Drum of the Forest. Part 2. The Price of Greed. Olautan and Ekun walked quickly through the village, their bare feet pressing against the cold earth. The village was still sleeping, but their hearts were wide awake. The drum was playing again, and now the spirits were following them. Ekun shivered. "Ola, I don't think I can do this." "You must," Olautan said firmly. "We need the elders' help." Ekun swallowed hard. "What if they punish us? What if they send us away?" Olautan did not answer. He didn't know what the elders would do, but he knew one thing for sure. If they did nothing, the spirits would come for them, and this time they might not be able to run. The hut of the village elders was the biggest in Odogbo. Inside, the oldest and wisest men sat in a circle on woven mats, their faces lined with years of knowledge. At the center sat Baba Odan, the head of the council. His hair was white like the clouds, and his eyes were deep like the river. When he looked at you, it felt like he could see inside your soul. The boys knelt before them, their heads lowered in respect. "Olautan, Ekun." Baba Odan's voice was steady. "Why have you come before us at this hour?" Olautan took a deep breath. "We have done something wrong," he said. The elders exchanged glances. "Speak," Baba Odan said. Olautan hesitated, then told them everything. How they had gone into the forest, how they had found the drum, how they had played it, and how the gold had fallen from the sky. Ekun's voice shook as he spoke. "We did not mean to take the gold, but when we tried to run, the drum, it did something to the forest. It woke something up." The elders were silent. The air in the hut became heavy. Then Baba Odan spoke. His voice was slow, careful. "You struck the drum 3 times?" "Yes," Olautan whispered. The old man closed his eyes. He took a deep breath, as if he already knew the answer before he asked. "And did you take the gold?" Olautan and Ekun hesitated. Ekun finally opened his hand. The gold coin was still there, shining even in the dim light of the hut. The moment Baba Odan saw it, he flinched. The other elders murmured in fear. Some stood up. One of them, Elder Dimeji, backed away as if the coin would burn him. "You have cursed this village," he shouted. Olautan's heart dropped. Baba Odan raised his hand, and the elders fell silent. Then he looked at the boys, his face dark with worry. "You do not understand what you have done," he said. His voice was not angry. It was sad. The drum was never meant for human hands. Baba Odan looked around at the other elders, then at the boys. "Many years ago," he began, "before Odogbo was a village, before even our grandfathers were born, this land was different. The forest was alive, not just with animals and trees, but with spirits." Olautan and Ekun listened carefully. "Some spirits were kind, some were not," Baba Odan continued. "There was one spirit that was more powerful than all the others. His name was Ajaka, the spirit of the drum." Ekun's breath hitched. "A spirit of a drum?" Baba Odan nodded. "Yes, Ajaka was not a man. He was not an animal. He was something older. It is said that his voice was like thunder, and when he struck his great drum, the earth itself would shake." The boys felt chills run down their arms. But Ajaka was not just powerful, he was also greedy. He loved gold more than anything. And so, he made a promise to any man who dared to play his drum. He would give them riches beyond their dreams. Olautan swallowed hard. He already knew how the story would end. "But," Baba Odan said, his voice low, "Ajaka was a trickster. He never gave without taking something in return." Olautan and Ekun looked at each other. "He took our friend," Ekun whispered. "The one who came with us. He turned into a tree." The elders nodded solemnly. Yes, Baba Odan said, because the price of the drum is always a life. Silence fell over the hut. Olautan felt sick. He had played the drum. He had taken its gold. And now, the price had not yet been fully paid. Baba Odan sighed deeply and looked at the gold coin in Ekun's hand. You must return it, he said. Return it? Olautan asked. How? The elder looked at him carefully. You must take it back to the forest. Place it at the foot of the drum. And when you do not look back. Do not stop walking, no matter what you hear. Ekun looked terrified. And if we don't? Baba Odan's face darkened. Then Ajaka will come for his payment. The boys did not speak. They knew what that meant. It meant that if they did not return the gold, the spirit would take them. Olautan clenched his fists. His mind was racing. He had been foolish. He had played with something he did not understand. And now he had put himself and the whole village in danger. We will go, he said finally. Ekun's eyes widened. Ola, are you mad? You want to go back there? Olautan set his jaw. Do you want to wait until the spirits come to us instead? Ekun's face paled. Baba Odan nodded approvingly. You must leave before the sun sets. Once night falls, the forest will not let you go so easily. Olautan and Ekun stood. Their legs were weak, but they knew they had no choice. They had taken from the drum. Now, they had to give it back. The boys left the elder's hut with heavy hearts. As they stepped outside, the village was awake. People were gathering, whispering, glancing at them with fear in their eyes. Word had spread. The village knew what they had done. Olautan tried to ignore the stares. He tried to ignore the way people pulled their children close, as if he and Ekun were already cursed. Ola, Ekun whispered, his voice tight with fear. What if we don't make it back? Olautan exhaled. Then let's make sure we do. The sun was climbing higher. They had only a few hours before nightfall, before the spirits came to collect their dead. And somewhere in the distance, the drum played, softly, waiting, calling them back. The sun was high in the sky as Olautan and Ekun walked toward the edge of the village. Every step they took felt heavier, like unseen hands were trying to pull them back. The villagers watched them in silence. No one spoke, but their faces showed fear and sorrow. They all knew the truth. The boys had played the forbidden drum, and now they had to pay the price. Baba Odan had warned them. Return the gold before the sun sets. Do not stop walking. No matter what you hear, do not turn back. Olautan tightened his grip on the gold coin in his palm. It was warm, almost like it had a heartbeat of its own. Ekun wiped sweat from his forehead. Ola, I have a bad feeling about this. Olautan swallowed hard. So do I. But they had no choice. The entrance to Ajo Orun, the forbidden forest, stood before them, like a giant mouth ready to swallow them whole. The trees were tall and dark, their branches twisted like hands reaching for the sky. The air was too still, as if even the wind was afraid to enter. Olautan took a deep breath. We go in, place the coin at the foot of the drum, and leave. That's all. Ekun's voice was barely above a whisper. What if the spirits stop us? Olautan didn't answer. He couldn't. Instead, he stepped forward. Ekun hesitated, then followed. And just like that, they disappeared into the forest. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Olautan could feel eyes watching them from the trees. He knew they were not alone. The drum was silent now, but its presence was everywhere. It was waiting for them. Ekun clutched his arms, his breath shaky. Ola, I think we made a mistake. Olautan kept walking. We can't turn back now. But then, a sound, a whisper. It came from nowhere and everywhere at once. You have returned, Ekun gasped. Ola, who said that? Olautan's heart pounded. Keep walking! The whisper came again. Too late. Too late. The boys froze. From the darkness between the trees, something moved. A shape. A shadow. It was tall, too tall to be human. Its body was covered in black bark, its arms long and twisted. It had no face, but it was looking at them. Ekun's knees nearly buckled. Ola, it's here. Olautan clenched his fists. We keep going. The shadow stepped forward. The trees shuddered. The air grew thick, pressing down on them like an invisible weight. And then, the drum began to play. Dome! The ground trembled beneath their feet. Dome! The whisper became a voice. The debt is not yet paid. The boys broke into a run. The drum boomed behind them, shaking the trees, making the ground feel like it was breaking apart. Ekun screamed, Ola! It's coming. Olautan didn't look back. He couldn't. Do not stop walking, Baba Odan had warned. No matter what you hear, do not turn back. So they ran. Branches slapped against their faces. The roots of the trees rose like snakes, trying to trip them. And the whispers were closer now. Stay with us. Do not leave. The drum has chosen you. Ekun tripped and fell. Olautan skidded to a stop. Ekun! Ekun tried to get up, but his leg was stuck. The roots had wrapped around his ankle, pulling him down. Olautan grabbed his arm and pulled with all his strength. The roots tightened. Ekun screamed. It won't let me go. Olautan's muscles burned. Hold on! Then, a shadow rose from the ground before them. The same faceless creature. The spirit of the drum. It spoke, its voice deep and endless. You took what was ours. Now you must stay. Ekun sobbed. Ola, please, don't let go. Olautan's eyes burned with determination. He reached into his pocket, the gold coin. With one last desperate move, he threw it forward, aiming for the base of the drum. The moment the coin hit the ground, the forest screamed. The roots let go. The shadows shrank back. The drum stopped playing. Olautan grabbed Ekun and ran. This time, nothing stopped them. They ran until they saw the edge of the forest. They ran until they collapsed onto the village soil. They had made it. But the drum was still waiting. The moment the boys returned, the village erupted in chaos. Women wailed. Men gathered around, whispering in hushed voices. The elders stood before them. Baba Odan's face was dark with worry. Did you return the gold? Olautan nodded weakly. Yes, we left it by the drum. The elders looked at each other. Some sighed in relief, but not Baba Odan. He stared at Olautan and Ekun, his gaze heavy. Then why? He murmured. Do I still hear the drum? Olautan and Ekun froze. The villagers gasped. Then, the wind shifted, and in the distance, carried through the silence, the drum began to play again. Doom! Olautan's heart stopped. Ekun fell to his knees. The drum was not done, and neither were the spirits. The sound of the drum sent chills down Olautan's spine. Doom! It was louder now, deeper, as if the very earth was groaning beneath them. The villagers gasped in fear, stepping back as if the sound itself would harm them. Some covered their ears. Others began to cry. Ekun was shaking beside him. Ola, why? We returned the gold. Olautan's heart pounded. I don't know. But the truth settled heavy in his stomach. The spirits were not satisfied. Baba Odan's eyes were dark with worry. He stepped forward, raising his hands for silence. The drum still calls, he said. His voice was grave. Which means the price has not been paid. Ekun's breath came in shaky gasps. But we did what you told us. We left the gold at the drum. Baba Odan looked at him sadly. Perhaps gold was not what the spirits wanted. The villagers murmured among themselves. Fear thickened the air. Elder Dimeji, the oldest among them, pointed a trembling finger at the boys. This is your doing. You have brought a curse upon us. Olautan clenched his fists. We never meant to. You played the drum, another elder snapped. You ignored the warnings, and now the spirits will come for us all. A woman's voice rose in fear. We must send them away. Ekun froze. What? Baba Odan turned to face the villagers. Silence. The crowd quieted, but their eyes burned with fear and anger. The old man sighed, rubbing his forehead. We cannot act in haste. The drum belongs to Ajaka, and we must find out what it wants. Olotan took a step forward. His legs were weak, but he forced himself to stand tall. Tell us what to do, he said firmly. Ekun grabbed his arm. Ola, are you mad? Olautan shook him off. If we do nothing, the spirits will take someone else. Maybe all of us. I won't let that happen. Baba Odan studied him for a moment, then nodded. You must go back to the drum. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Ekun's face paled. Again? No, I won't. Baba Odan continued as if he hadn't heard him. You must speak to Ajaka's spirit, he said. Ask him what he wants. Only then can we know how to end this curse. Olautan nodded. I will do it. Ekun grabbed his arm again, his face full of terror. Ola, please, if we go back, we won't come out alive. Olautan turned to him. His eyes were full of guilt, fear, and determination. This time, they did not go alone. Baba Odan and two warriors, Jagun and Tade, walked with them, their faces set with grim determination. They carried charms made by the village priest, wrapped in red cloth. For protection, Baba Odan had said. Olautan was not sure if it would be enough. The moment they stepped into Ajo Orun, the forest changed. The air was thick and heavy, pressing against them like an invisible weight. The trees seemed closer together, their branches twisting like gnarled fingers. The whispers started immediately. You have come back. Ekun whimpered. Ola, I don't want to be here. Olautan's jaw tightened. Just keep walking. But the deeper they went, the worse it became. The shadows shifted. The ground moved beneath their feet, as if the forest was alive. Then, a sound. Soft, eerie laugh. Jagun, one of the warriors, turned sharply. Who goes there? The laughter grew louder. Then, from the trees, it stepped out. The spirit of the drum. If we don't, he said, none of us will. The figure was tall, too tall, its limbs long and twisted like dead branches. It had no face, only a black emptiness where a face should be. But worst of all, it was holding the drum. No longer was the drum resting at the center of the forest. Now, it was in Ajaka's hands, and he was playing it. Dom! The sound rolled through the forest, shaking the trees, making the air vibrate. Baba Odan stepped forward, raising his staff. Ajaka, we have come to seek your mercy. The spirit tilted its head, the shadows around it swirling like smoke. You have taken what is mine, it said, its voice layered with many voices at once. Baba Odan's grip on his staff tightened. We returned the gold. The spirit laughed, a hollow, empty sound. Gold is nothing, Ajaka whispered. Gold is a trick, a test, a trap for greedy men. Olautan's stomach dropped. Then what did it want? Ajaka took a slow step forward. The drum does not give freely, it continued. Every beat calls something forth. You called me, and now it raised a single, clawed hand. I will take my price. The ground shook violently. The wind howled. The trees bent toward them, their branches reaching like hungry hands. Ekun screamed, "Ola, we have to run!" Jagun and Tade raised their weapons, their bodies tense. Baba Odin stood firm. "What do you want, Ajaka?" The spirit slowly raised a hand and pointed at Olatan. Olatan's body went cold. "You struck the drum," Ajaka said. Olatan swallowed hard. Yes." The spirit's voice was soft but deadly. "Then you will stay," Ikun gasped. "No," Ajaka ignored him. "You woke me," the spirit said. "You played my song. Now, you belong to me." The shadows around the spirit moved, reaching for Olautan. Ikun lunged forward, grabbing his friend's shoulders. "Ola, fight it!" Baba Odan raised his staff. "Ajaka, there must be another way." The spirit laughed softly. "Then give me another life." The air grew still. Jagan and Tada tensed, their hands tightening on their weapons. Baba Odan's face was unreadable. Ikun's eyes filled with tears. "No, we can't." Ajaka tilted its head. "One life for all, or the village suffers." The spirits were demanding a sacrifice, and time was running out. To be continued. Olotan is faced with a terrible choice: his life or the village's safety. Will he sacrifice himself to save his people? Or will someone else take his place? And if no one offers, what happens when Ajaka comes to collect? Find out in part 3. Atonement in the Shadows.